Hello, welcome to Spotlight, an early spring of creativity.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, we catch up with the Arts Council activities as they look ahead to 2024. Who were Mrs. A Manx poet with a love of risque humour publishes her first book. And we have a first chat at last with the newish creative head at Kensington Arts. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you may be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to. I'll stay silent, you can just shout out the list. No, I better not. Put in the spotlight: poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, sculpture, drag, mime, social media, any of the others. Email spotlight@manxradio.com or howardkane@manxradio.com, Kane with an E. I'd love to hear from you. Get on the programme, give yourself a plug, tell us what you're doing. We're here for you. So it's been a while, but we have at last caught up with Peter Shimmon's replacement at Kensington Arts, that hidden gem of creativity in the middle of Douglas, who is naturally enough a very busy woman. Emma Goodson has the fine title of Creative Development Co-ordinator, and we eventually managed to catch up with each other to see how she's been settling in and what she was looking to do in 2024.
I started on the first week of September, I believe. So, it's been a few months now. It's weird. It's gone quite quickly, but then it feels like I've been there like about 8 months nearly, but that's not quite what. Yeah, it feels like home already,
which is a good sign. And was it something you'd obviously, I think you have been on the Isle of Man, or at least you were educated on the Isle of Man, but you came back when you saw this job advertised?
Yeah, that's right. I was keeping my eye out for a job in the arts, but I wasn't looking on the Isle of Man at all. I was looking in London. And it just happened to pop up on my Facebook feed, actually, and I couldn't really pass it up. A friend of mine actually messaged me as well, and because they had seen the job advertised, and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect for you, Emma." So yeah, I decided to just apply and kind of took it from there.
What was the pull? It's lovely to see someone coming back again. Was that on the life plan to sort of come back to the Isle of Man and work in the arts here?
Yeah, I think probably eventually, but it definitely escalated my plan. So I had envisioned to stay in London maybe a couple more years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the job and couldn't pass it up, really.
And were you working in arts in London when you were down in the capital?
I was a civil servant working at DCMS, so that's the Department for Culture, Media and Sports. So kind of nearly there, but not. I wanted to be more in the action of it and kind of running programs and everything like that. So yes, this job at Kensington Arts was perfect. Yeah. And
were you aware then of sort of Kensington Arts before you took over the role? Had you ever been there, or were you aware of what it had been doing?
No, not at all, actually. I had no idea about Kensington Arts, which seems to be the case for a lot of people. So, I'm definitely trying to get the word out there that Kensington Arts is right in the middle of Douglas. There's lots of things happening there. If you are interested in the arts in any kind of capacity, then you should have a look on the website, on our social media.
And I suppose we've said this on the programme before on Spotlight, that I always think it's sort of something of a well-kept secret, and that sort of those who know, and those who don't sort of drive past and think, oh, is it youth centre or something like that, and don't really have an idea of just how much does go on in there.
Yeah, so it used to be a youth centre. It used to be called YAC, Youth Arts Centre, so some people might know that name. Before that, it was the Douglas School of Art. So, in recent years, it's been youth focused, but now that it's Kensington Arts, we are definitely expanding it to have an offer for adults. We kind of want to cater to everyone in the community. You don't have to have experience in art. Come along and see what you might like and give it a go.
Oh, that's quite interesting, because I think you're right. I think if people do know it, they think it is very much youth orientated, and that, perhaps if you're over the age of 21, then there's not going to be an offering for you there.
Yeah, so we do have a couple of things at the moment for adults, so 18 plus. But like I said, we are hoping to expand the offer, so do keep an eye out. People may have heard of Soundcheck, which has been running for a long time, even before Kensington Arts was Kensington Arts. But you may not know that on Wednesdays, Soundcheck is open to adults. That's when you can kind of come in. If you're an adult and you're interested in music, you might not have any experience with playing an instrument, but you've just got that interest, or you might already have an established band but are looking for a place to practice, then you can come along on Wednesdays between 6 and 9 p.m. and it's drop-in. It's only £3 a session, and your first session is free as well, so you really don't have anything to lose. And they're really a really great team at Soundcheck, very friendly, very welcoming.
So it's a great way to get going, as you say, even if you don't really have any great previous experience or are particularly proficient on an instrument or anything, you can go along anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is lovely to see. What else is going there? Because I know, again, there's the sound check. There's the arts tank. I know we've done stuff upstairs before with the wonderful arts room, which is sort of looks like an arts room. There's lots of paint spattered everywhere, and it sort of looks like there's a real creative hub.
Yeah, we do have Art Tank on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's for secondary school children. But we have recently, or fairly recently, I think when Peter was still here, he introduced Junior Art Tank on Wednesdays, and that's for primary school age. So if you're in year 3 to year 6 at primary school, then you can come along to Junior Art Tank. And we've just launched as well. We've just announced that we're having Junior Art Tank on Fridays as well. So every week we have Art Tank on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and now we've got Junior Art Tank on Wednesdays and Fridays as well. So there's lots of things going on every week. And again, those are drop-in sessions, £3 a session, and your first session is free. So please do come along.
Well, that's the great thing, I think. Again, when you hear these prices, it's affordable. It's not the sort of thing that people think, oh gosh, it's going to be sort of £40, £50 a session or whatever. It's actually affordable money for pretty much everyone, really.
Yes.
Which makes it very inclusive, which is lovely. The performance arts, very well represented and have punched well above its weight. There have been 2 or 3 in recent years who have gone from performing at Kensington Arts, and a few years later, quite literally, in some cases 3, 4, 5 years later, they're on the world stage. I think we can say quite safely that they've been some amazing success with the performing arts there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe Locke, who was the star of the Netflix series Heartstopper, he was involved at Kensington Arts and did the Connections programme there a few years ago with David Dawson, the director. So we have that programme running again this year and hoping to do it again next year. So that's a closed cast at the moment, but if you're interested, then keep an eye out again on our social media.
Wonderful. And then creative writing. I know there are things for those who might be wanting to get into the writing side of things, whether it's either poetry or indeed just doing creative writing from the point of view of stories, novels, that sort of thing.
Yes, so on Mondays, 4 till 6, we have a creative writing offer for secondary school aged children, and that is run by Joe Smith, who's a wonderful facilitator and tutor. And if you're interested in creative writing, then you can come along to that. But we also have an adult offer now, which happens on Thursdays. What's the time? It's 10 a.m. till 12 on Thursdays. Mm-hmm. And that is creative writing, kind of relaxed workshop style sessions. And you come in and just kind of give it a go, really. Joe will be there to facilitate how and what you want to learn about creative writing. So you may already have some experience with writing, but perhaps you haven't tried poetry before, and it's just a very welcoming, supportive group. And it's been very popular actually, so that's really great, and we're hoping to expand that offer in the near future.
So that's great. So again, that's for sort of adults. I'm not just talking about youth here. It's people of any age can come along and get involved in some of these classes.
Yes, so the sessions on Thursdays is called Creative Writing, and that's for adults. So, you know, if you're 18 or you're 68, then it's open to everyone.
Sounds good, doesn't it? Told you it was a creative hub and not just for the youth, as a lot of folk might think is the case. More from Emma next week.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Now, those of delicate dispositions and soft ears, this next piece might not be for you. Jan Allison is a local poet who loves to write mostly humorous poetry, often in limerick style, but with a somewhat risque, to say the least. Look at life. Think saucy seaside postcards in poetry. You won't be far from the mark. And she has just had her first book of poetry published via Amazon. She says she knows it's not for everyone. It is anything. But for those who like that sort of humour, she hopes it puts a smile on their faces. And she told me she hasn't been a lifelong poet and found writing any form of poetry was something she came to later in life after a specific incident.
I did come onto it later on in life, yes. In fact, I have to confess that I really didn't like poetry when I was at school, and I never wrote until my husband had cancer. And we were in Arrow Park in the Wirral, and I was very, very much alone, and Bob had actually gone in for his surgery, and I wrote my very first poem called Splendid Isolation, and it was all about how I felt. I was scared, I was alone, I had very, very little support around me, and just the emotions came out, and I've been writing ever since then.
So it was quite a sort of cathartic thing to start off, really, when you first...
Very much so, yes, and it's helped me through some very tough times in my life over the last 10 years. But also I write a lot of humorous poems, and I do enjoy making people smile.
And that's where we're coming to now, because you've actually now got a collection of these out. So it is, because your first one, as you say, was very, very personal, very something when you were in a very stressful time, very tough time, something that you felt you needed to do and gave you some comfort and some release in many ways. And so it was very much from the heart. Now, what you're probably best known for is like I said, the much more, well, by your own admission, it's good risque seaside stuff, which is good bawdy humour or humoresque poems.
Yes, I do have a title as well. I post on a poetry site called Poetry Soup, and I developed an aptitude for writing humorous poems, especially limericks, and I have the title of Queen of Poop. Because I have to admit that I do enjoy writing scatological poems or toilet humour, and in fact I am starting on a second book which is going to be all on toilet humour.
So be warned, listener. No, we're not going to go too far down that way. But again, it's something, at the end of the day, like I said, I have to confess, I've always had a scatological mind when it comes to my humour. And we know, I think, it's not everyone. Some people love it, some people, it's a Marmite thing, isn't it? People either love it or hate it generally.
Yes, I did get castigated on the site for writing a poem called Float On, and one lady was so incensed she put down that poets should not write about scatology, and unfortunately for her it made me even worse and made me write more and more.
Red rag to a bull.
Definitely.
As they say. So it's wonderful. I've got a copy in my hand now of a book you've got out of these poems. A giggle a day, risque humour warming. There's a red flag on the front, just in case you don't want to offend the unwary. A giggle a day can chase the blues away by Jan Allison. Now, this is self-published. You've done this via Amazon?
Yes, I did that via Amazon, and it's been quite a task, because I'd written over 3,500 poems in the last 10 years. some humorous, some serious. I've learnt how to write haiku and sonnets and things like that. But my preferred style is limericks and humour. So I had to go through many, many poems and write new ones as well to go in the book. And I've had some fantastic feedback since it's been published on Amazon. I've had 13 5-star reviews, and people are buying second copies to give away as presents, especially over Christmas. So it's been fantastic.
And the process itself, as you say, was that quite involved? I've never done it myself. I know other people who have, but is it something which has taken a lot of your time?
It's taken an awful lot of time. I kept editing and editing. I did have a wonderful friend in New Orleans who's edited the poems for me, a lady called Lynn, who I met on the poetry site. But actually formatting the poems has been quite a challenge. I had a proof copy done of the book, and someone said to me, you really need to move the poems down, split them up, things to do with margins and things like that. So it was quite a wake-up call for me, because when I got the first proof copy, I thought it was the most wonderful thing. I held it, I kept looking at it, it was like a baby. And then when someone says to you, well, you really could do with a little bit of tweaking here and there, it makes you rethink. So it was about another 4 weeks before we actually got a second proof copy done, which was done to my satisfaction, and now it's out on Amazon.
Terrific stuff. It is 366 poems, so it's a poem a day plus one for a leap year.
Yes, and there is the poem on the back of the book as well, which tells people exactly the nature of the poem. So if you don't like risque humour, then please don't read the book. It's as simple as that.
Like I said, I think it's all good seaside stuff. Let's have one now if I can find it, because there was a good one you did about Just Desserts, I think it was called, which is all about something I still stinger at now, and I've fallen foul of myself many times over the years, which is the inadvertent spoonerism.
Yes, and this actually happened to me in Port Erin at the station pub, and my friends still tease me about it, but this is called Just Desserts. I was at my favourite restaurant and I'd had a lovely meal. If I'd finished all my food, then a pudding was the deal. I'd relished every morsel and was pleased as a Cheshire cat. The dessert menu was on its way. Oh, I couldn't wait for that. The waitress brought the menu. I rubbed my hands with glee. Oh, sticky toffee pudding. Now that's the one for me. She returned to take the order. We had waited as you do. Turning to me, she said, now, madam, what can I get you? Oh, stiffy cocky pudding, please, was my swift reply. I didn't realise what I'd said till I saw the tears form in her eye. I went as red as a beetroot, and my friends began to laugh at my spoonerism, which turned into a complete gaffe. The pudding, it came quickly, but I couldn't wait to leave. I choked on every mouthful, which made my tummy heave. So please take notice of my error on this horrendous day. If you order sticky toffee pudding, be careful what you say.
The inadvertent spoonerism is a dangerous thing. We've all been there, but they do make me chuckle. I always remember a TV reporter talking about a drugs issue and referring to hyperdemic nurdles. Onwards, before we get into trouble. The first few weeks of a new year, always a good time to look ahead to the year to come, or most of it, and never a busier time than at the Arts Council. The development manager is Jane Corkill.
Always a busy time, a time to look forward for everybody, not just the arts team and the Arts Council, but obviously all our potential funding applicants. This is the point in the year, I think, when people start thinking about what's coming next.
So a new round of funding just opening now in January?
So the funding is open. It closes on the 9th of February, and that's for an Arts Council meeting on the 8th of March.
And just remind us again then, sort of this funding, I know people hear it and they probably hear it on radio, might spot it, see it on the website or whatever, but who is it open to and what for?
It's absolutely open to everybody. You have to be over 16 to apply, but anybody that has a creative project in any kind of way really is able to come and talk to us in the first instance, and then we can see whether there is maybe a funding stream available to apply to be awarded the funding to facilitate the project. And we have several funding streams. We have underwrite. We underwrite ticketed events, any events or projects that are bringing an income in where potentially, unfortunately, there may be a loss. The Arts Council would look to underwrite. We have general project grants, which are, well, basically just for general projects. So anything that doesn't actually fit into any of the other funding streams sort of goes in there. People, books, music recording, we have a massive long list. Poetry, anything like that would perhaps go in there. We have a short film fund, so for people wanting to make films. We have a creative industry support funding stream. So if you are a creative and you are working or looking to do something on a more professional level as a business, come and talk to us. We have a bit of support there. And we also have travel grants. So the Arts Council funds our creatives, our community who are going off island to perhaps attend workshops to obviously expand their knowledge and experience, or to take part in competitions or perform in any kind of way off the Isle of Man.
Is it a complicated process? Be honest now.
I don't think so. I think people do, people often just naturally aren't happy filling in forms, are they? But we try to make it as simple as we possibly can. And the arts team, we are always happy to help people, to talk them through it. Until the point of submission, we are right on hand, whether via email, phone. You can come into the office, we'll meet you for coffee, we'll do whatever it takes to help you get your application up to speed and to the point where it's going to be successful.
So if anyone's hearing this, and again, I know we quite often talk about it, and I know again you can see stuff online, if they've not done it before, so thinking maybe for 2024, someone's thinking they've got a project in the back of their mind, they've been thinking about it, maybe they're hearing this now on the radio or on the podcast, whatever the case may be, and they're thinking, I sort of might do it. What's the best thing would you say to them? Either to do the online thing first, fill something in, or come in and have a chat first? Come in and have a chat first.
Sometimes what we find is when we meet applicants and we get chatting, things evolve. And we start at one point, and then by the time it actually becomes an application, the project might naturally have just become something else. It might have become something bigger, or people partner up to do things, or various things will happen. And sometimes we start having discussions with people now in January, and they actually don't submit an application to the Arts Council maybe until September. That's absolutely fine. We're always happy to have the conversations, as many as people need. And it's great because over the course of this sort of journey, we get to know the applicants well, they get to know us. And there is a whole sort of partnership that then forms between the applicant, the arts team, subsequently the Arts Council. When my role in the sort of equation is to advise the Arts Council. I don't have a vote on the Arts Council. I'm not an Arts Council member. And so these conversations can become very important, because when an application comes to the members of the Arts Council, I'm there on hand to say, well, I know this person and I know this project, and this is why it's happening. This is what it's going to achieve. This is what the legacy is going to be. So all these pieces of the jigsaw are really important with an Arts Council application. The website, Isle of Man Arts Council, iomarts.com, that's the one. Or you can email us on iomartscouncil@gov.im, or you can phone us up on 694598, or you can just come in and see us. We're in the Villa Marina Arcade at the top of the steps. Just pop in.
They are a very friendly bunch, it must be said, so don't be put off if you've got an idea. Get down there and just go in and have a chat in the first instance about any ideas, and who knows what might happen. But if you don't go, it's not going to happen at all. That's about it this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything, go again to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst looking for the first daffodils of the year. See you next week. Until then, look after yourselves, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.